Welcome everyone to Aaron Shack Politics. Today we're going to have a little bit of fun in this video. We're going to read some mean comments, I guess. I mean, some might be mean, some might be more opposition to my opinions or others' opinions. So we're going to jump in and read some comments regardless. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I hope you enjoy this one. We'll see if we want to do this more often. But this one's on Bernie Sanders wants Citizens United and super PACs out of politics. Bad Boy 630799136 says, lol, they want free and fair elections but fight against free and fair election ideas constantly. What he really means is that they want elections where the only possible outcome is that Huss candidates win. I replied with, nope, keep the billionaires out and their companies out of elections. There's a lot of corruption and propaganda spread through political action committees. Our politicians on both sides of the aisle are bought and sold by PACs that give them money telling them how to vote for their interest, not the people's interest. So Bernie really wants everything to go back to the people in this sense, where it's all public fundraising. It's all coming from the people, not from big corporations, not from secretive PACs and stuff like that, like AIPAC, where they literally just fund pro-Israeli candidates so that they continue their genocide and make sure that there's no one elected in office that opposes anything Israel does while they bomb innocent men, women, and children, and hospitals and churches and schools. There we go. So yeah, that's that on that first one. On my next video, MAGA in fear. There will be no recess appointments, says Mitch McConnell. Scott Schroeder 4920 says, Dems are funny. I said some of the best comedians are Democrats, ironically. I'm not okay with subverting the democratic process of the Senate voting to approve nominees by utilizing recess appointments, no matter which party is in power. So notice I don't change the rules. I don't, all of a sudden when Democrats are in power, I don't say, oh yeah, we should utilize this cheat code to make sure that we get our boys in. No, I say we go by the rules and we play by the rules. And if it's the Republican Party in power, I say, hey, they must go by the rules. They must play by the rules. And if they try to subvert democracy, then we have an issue. So I say they should pick qualified candidates who earn their position. Okay, so moving on to the next one. This one's really interesting. This is President Joe Biden authorizes Ukraine to use long-range weapons. And if we look at this one, we have JHBJ May 22 says that's exactly what he's aiming for he is doing exactly that so they can commence with martial law prolonging Trump's inauguration. I said, I doubt it. I like to avoid tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not mocking JHBJ May here. I am just saying that the idea that he has here it's in conspiracy level land, okay? It's in, tinfoil hat land, okay? Where you're like, man, I gotta wear the tinfoil hat so the lizard brains don't get to me, and the UFOs trying to jack into my mind, and the COVID vaccine got little microchips that are tracking me and my family, crazy stuff. So it's not mocking the person, it's mocking the argument. Okay. I said President Joe Biden said he will ensure a peaceful transfer of power, unlike what Donald Trump did on January 6, 2020. So I trust that is what he will do. Stay tuned, I suppose. And he replied with, oh, wow, and you fully believe that you are such a clown and Jan 6 was a Fed op. Don't believe me? Actually do some research. All the videos is out there. For the non-believers, the Capitol Police were actually doing tours during the so-called insurrection. Let me guess you also believe that people were actually killed during the insurrection, unlike the actual insurrection that happened during 2016 when Trump was actually elected, which were quote unquote peaceful protests. I'm unsure what he means by like some other sort of insurrection that happened in 2016. I mean, I know Hillary conceded, but I mean, she did want some recounts in certain areas, but at the end of the day, she accepted the results of the election, so I'm not really sure what he's getting at there. He's saying that Capitol Police were doing tours. That's not what the police do. They guard the area. There's separate people that do the tours. He's saying it's a Fed op, so he's saying that there's all the videos out there for the non-believers, that it's like a Fed psyop. So once again, it's guy with the tinfoil hat on, which is really crazy. And I'm not attacking the person, but it's this idea of, and I think a lot of people are suffering from this sort of delusion here. But there's plenty of evidence that the insurrection January 6th was not peaceful. There are dead policemen. Of course, there's a young lady that died as well, but she also tried to break in, past agents and past Capitol Police, and they opened fire because, yes, she was breaching and trying to get access to areas that were not for them, especially during an attack. The main priority of Capitol Police and any agents on the scene were to protect the senators, the congressmen, anyone that happened to be there, the vice president, etc. So I said police were killed during the insurrection as well as civilians. It's interesting that Trump and his base are all for the peaceful transfer of power when he wins, but when he loses, they want to storm the Capitol, hang Mike Pence, and subvert democracy. I don't wear the tinfoil hats, so no conspiracy theories, no government psyops, no blaming the things that MAGA people did, marching to the Capitol, breaking in, etc., on someone else. There's video evidence of this. There was nothing peaceful about it. And then JHBJ May 22 responded by saying, Lamau, love that you like deleting comments. It's kind of funny, and no wonder I'm the only comment. I think in regards to the idea that he's the only comment, it's a relatively new channel. We're at like 38 subscribers as of the time of this video. And it's not unusual when you're starting a new channel. Like maybe one person will comment on a video and you'll comment back in order to stir conversation, and more comments come through. And gradually, eventually more people might chime in, or other people just might chime in on videos that they are more interested or knowledgeable about, or they want to try to rebut something that's in the video. So in his case, there's no conspiracy theory. There's no deleting comments. It's just he's the only one replying here, and I'm the only one responding. I think when the channel grows, you might have more of a back and forth and more interplay between the other commenters, but, thinking that there's some sort of, I don't know. He's living in such a land of delusion here that he thinks I'm playing a game with him too. So not only does he doubt the government, he doubts all these various things. He's got all these conspiracy theories flowing. He has so much of that in his head that he thinks that I am part of it too, which is, I don't know. I would argue seek some help on that one. I said in reply to that, YouTube and my mod team prevent comments with racism, slurs, and foul language. If you can't say what you want to say without being respectful, that's a you problem. It's okay to disagree. It's not okay to be disrespectful. I do feel like a kindergarten teacher telling adults how to behave and have calm and rational discussion without demeaning each other. So I will admit I got a little peeved right there, right? Like, I'm not like mad about it, but I did say, hey, just letting some stress out here. Like it does feel like I'm having to be, a kindergarten teacher or a parent with two kids quarreling, and I'm like, I don't care who started it. Stop it. So, okay, so we'll move on to the next comment here. This is another one from MAGA in Fear. There will be no recess appointments, says Mitch McConnell. Let's see. M. Price 8851 says, I can't believe Mitch will be the one who will end up saving the world by not allowing Trump to install complete sycophants, but I'll take it. I replied with a stunning twist, but we shall see. It's possible incoming Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who will enter in 2025, will reverse this decision and subvert democracy by allowing recess appointments. Scott Schroeder, 4920. I don't know why they always have 4 numbers after their name. It's some sort of thing. He says, subvert democracy, huh? Like how they installed Kamala without voting and pushed RFK out? I get a good laugh when I hear Dems talk about threats to democracy. Okay, so RFK was never a Democratic Party nominee. I think a lot of people, and we're going to get into this with some later comments, I think a lot of people don't fully understand the idea that there are independents like Bernie Sanders and like RFK, where it's like they don't really subscribe to everything the Democrats do or everything the Republicans do. So RFK wasn't really pushed out. He was a third-party candidate that was never really all that serious. He couldn't even get signed up in all states. And then when he tried to get out of the race, he couldn't even get out of some of the states. So he ended up actually competing with Donald Trump, who he, at the end of the day, ended up endorsing. But he was actually more of a spoiler to Donald Trump than he was to Joe Biden or later Kamala Harris. It turned out that he was really leeching more votes from Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, didn't really affect much of anything. Okay? So I replied to that saying, it's not the most unusual situation with Kamala being chosen to lead the party with Biden showing his age. She's the vice president, after all. You know, it's just next in the line of succession. You know, it's the first one that you would consider in the Democratic Party. So I said, I do agree. It would have been nice to hold a primary, but a few months out from Election Day, we're talking like 100 days or so. It wouldn't be enough time to rally candidates, campaign, and unite under one candidate. Whoever gets a chance to who never gets a chance to debate Trump. So that would be true. Like, it would take a while. You'd have to have 5 or 6 or 8 or 9, Democrats, come up and say, hey, I've got a better plan than Joe. I got a better plan than Kamala. Here's what I got. I'm campaigning all over. I'm raising money, doing all this 100 days before the election. It's unheard of. And then, of course, for the entire party to go, oh, okay, well, let's see. I don't like what that one's saying. Don't like what that one's saying. Yeah, let's all rally behind this one. Like, for the party to have that level of unity so instantly, it was just implausible. Now, I was surprised that so many people rallied to Kamala so quickly. She got so many endorsements from other people, but I think it was just a lot of people that were relieved that it was like, okay, Biden's showing his age. We got to think about the future of the party. Biden did a really good job stopping Trump and restabilizing the government and what have you, but now we need to focus in on this. So yeah, you would have to have it all united under one candidate, and then of course that candidate would need the opportunity to debate Trump, and Trump was too scared to debate against Kamala, and he would also be too scared to debate against Pete Buttigieg or Bernie Sanders or anyone else that would manage to step up. Maybe Andrew Yang again. I'm really not sure who would have. I mean, maybe Newsom over in California would actually step up. I'm thinking he'll probably want to get in the rings by the next political election. So then I went on saying RFK never had a chance. Now, what I'm saying with that is not that I wish he had a chance. I'm just stating the situation. So RFK never had a chance. His ideas were too controversial, like the COVID stuff, his vaccine denial. And he was more of a spoiler for Trump than any Democrat. He joined Trump's team and seized the opportunity to be in a position of power. He has no experience politically. His own family was against him running and hates his ideas. I think recess appointments subvert voting in the Senate, when you know your candidates are too controversial and unqualified for even your own party to vote for them. Now, if you want to know what I think about some of Trump's candidates, you can check the video where I look at Trump's cabinet nominations. I believe it's Trump's insane and unqualified nominations. And I talk about how, Pete Hegseth is not qualified for the job, how Matt Gaetz has so many alleged statutory rape allegations on multiple girls that are 17 years old. And of course, Pete Hegseth not only being not qualified enough for the job as we compare him with the current occupant of that cabinet, he also has a rape allegation which he settled in court and paid off that woman. So that's a sign of guilt. When you do that, you may not have a guilty verdict in court, and it's really to just settle and avoid anything, but I think you do that so that it doesn't blow up and so that you don't have to face all these allegations in court and potentially be proven guilty. So, I don't think either party should take advantage of recess appointments, is what I say. Pick the best people for the cabinet that are qualified to do the job and let democracy run its course. Scott Schroeder 4920 replies with, no one voted for Kamala to be their candidate. Is that how democracy works? So once again, I gotta do the whole explanation again. I agree that they should have held some sort of primary. Biden should have either stepped aside earlier and allowed Democrats to rally and hold a primary, even with an incumbent president, which would be unheard of. But I think Joe Biden should have either known earlier on, like, hey, my age is coming in, 4 more years just doesn't sound like something I'm capable of doing. I did my job. I got Trump out of there. I saved us and got everything back in order here. And I was a decent president during my time. I would argue he's done horrible on Gaza, and so many people have died under his and Kamala's watch, which I think would in turn lose her the election, or be one of the many things that caused a lot of people to not vote for her. I think that would have been the play, is either have him, Monday morning quarterback here would be Biden step aside and, maybe we, for the first time decide like, hey, it's an incumbent president, but let's see if our party has bigger and better ideas. And if someone wants to oppose him, let it happen. Like, we're so like desperate to like cling to power that we'll like cling to one president for 8 years when it's like, well, what if there's someone else with better ideas that could do a better job than them? Like, let's free market. Let's let them compete in the market of ideas. So I'm for that. I know it's kind of crazy, but especially in this situation, it would have been really cool. So let Biden prove his age doesn't slow him down, or let the best Democrats step up. I'm sure a lot of people have a problem with Kamala simply being chosen, but she is the vice president and the most logical choice in an emergency. Okay, so next video that I have a comment on here was, Mass was held in Holy Family Catholic Church in Gaza on November 17, 2024. This is just a video where I was highlighting that, there are Christians, there are Catholics in Gaza, and they are still celebrating Mass. And this person brings up something kind of weird. I'm not going to try to read their whole name. But they say, so why is the media lying of widespread destruction in Gaza if they still hold Mass in a cathedral? Now, I would argue this is probably not a cathedral. It's really more of a church. And I said one of the few, all caps, remaining churches in Gaza. And the reason I say that is because the IDF and Israeli Zionists, they have bombed all the churches and the mosques, and they attack people when they come to pray in Jerusalem and stuff like that on any of the Muslim holidays or any of the Muslim holy days that they want to come in, and they go there their mosques and they pray, the IDF will throw tear gas in there. They'll beat everyone up. They'll jail people for no reason. And they've also been bombing schools, hospitals, and churches. So, yeah. Someone tries to say, well, if this building's still standing, it must mean that all the rest are too. It's all an illusion. And I would invite you to look at images of Gaza just as a whole. I mean, just looking at all the ruined buildings, there's really no safe place to go. So, denial is no excuse. So once again, on the same video about Mass being held in Holy Family Catholic Church, kind of a nice thing someone said. Agree with you, all of them need peace and freedom and live however they like. And I said absolutely. And that was one of the core points of my video that I wanted to hammer home there. The next person said, Derry K. Gallo, 8433. You see what I mean about how they always have four numbers. American and Western leaders would have us believe that terrorists only come from Africa, Central and South America, Asia, and the Middle East. The color of a person's skin determines if a person is a terrorist or not. I just highlighted this because it's kind of a profound statement that, you know, our news, our government, the propaganda that we see, movies, media, all this stuff, we always see Muslims as the terrorists in the video games and the movies and stuff like that. And same with, you know, anything South America and Mexico. It's always, you know, they're always playing drug dealers in movies and stuff like that. In Asia, you know, you always have Asian characters playing as the Yakuza and various gangsters or you know, just very stereotypical portrayals. And they're always enemies to America. In all these sense, and kind of the same thing with Africa. They're always portraying Africans as, you know, the savage apartheid, you know, military states in all these movies, and always being sort of the opposition as well. So I think it's important, and I just said shameful indeed. I mean, there's not really much you can say about how the media decides to portray people. The next one is Bernie Sanders wants Citizens United and super PACs out of politics. On this video, someone said something really nice. They said, "Thank you, Bernie. Heart, you give a voice to sanity." I said, indeed, I think we will be hearing from him a lot post-election. The Democratic Party moving right has been a losing strategy. So, I mean, moving center or right, or trying to appeal to like Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, and you know, just like trying to get these like corporate Democrats and Republicans on board, you know, like we care about big business, and you know, all the blue collar workers are like, well, what about us? What about the little guy? Where's the policies that benefit the average everyday workers? You know, they're struggling out here, and you know, they just got dumped. So we need more of his progressive policies, so he's going to make his voice be heard and rally the troops, and I'll be covering it here on Aaron Shack Politics. Ding. Jeff Davis VG5YX says, loser. I don't really know if he's calling me a loser, or Bernie's a loser, or Donna, the first comment's a loser. I don't really know. So I said, personal attacks invalidate your argument. Be nice to people. You never know what someone else is going through. Okay, on why tariffs are inflationary and a disaster for hardworking Americans. We have someone here once again on the conspiracy theory train. Artemis Lace says, why are you censoring comments? Are you from China or working for them? I said, moderation from YouTube is filtering out anything racist or foul language. No conspiracy here. Surely people can share opinions without being racist or hateful, right? The conspiracy of, does Aaron Shack work for China begins. So, I don't know. I guess this is the first of like many comments where people are like, I think he's working for China. He's being paid by China. China is filtering our comments. No, YouTube is an American-owned company. China has no control. China has no control over me. I can't be bought. Let's put it that way. I'm not even going to say that there's a price tag that China could aim for. That's so ridiculous. The whole point behind this channel is to lend a voice to the voiceless, to rally the troops, and to really focus in on the issues that matter to Americans and maybe even a little bit internationally as well. I think we need to think about the world as well. I don't think we can just isolate on America alone. Okay. More on the why tariffs are inflationary. Gia Kumar V2T says no, it just makes America's products competitive. No, you cheap crap is overpriced and our quality products are better and purchased. So I don't know. That's, you kind of have to decrypt when people have terrible grammar here. American products are more expensive is how I reply here. And cost of labor is higher in the U.S. for products, most products. We can definitely agree that some of the products we import from China are cheap crap, but it's cheaper than making it here and selling it for more because of our high labor costs. So he's just kind of saying like we're just magically going to buy American-made products because China's is cheap crap. No, we buy cheap crap all the time off Amazon, off TikTok, all this stuff. But if we see that there is value that adds to our lives and it's cheaper, and cheaper could mean anything. It could be cheaper than other products. It could be cheaper than American-made products. It could be any reason. But at the end of the day, like, are you going to buy something? Are you going to buy like a phone that costs more from an American-made company? Or are you going to try to get the same phone and maybe it's a Chinese or some other company and they're selling it cheaper? Like, are you really going to like go for dignity here and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy the more expensive one so I feel better about myself? No, everyone, we got mouths to feed. We got work to do. We got bills to pay. We can't be making crazy decisions like that. So comments continue now. They said, yeah, but then the businesses will come back to America and our economy will get better. That doesn't really make sense. American businesses can't compete. Now, we're strictly, in this example, it's really talking about like t-shirts, just like simple stuff like that. So American businesses can't compete. We raise prices on tariffed goods, which hurt consumers. We can't make the same goods cheaper. Our labor costs are much higher. Now, what does that mean? Well, in some cases, it means that literally we have so many laws, and this is a good thing. We have child labor laws. We have all sorts of things that protect our workers, okay? So you don't have to be overworked and underpaid, okay? Now, in China, they don't have that stuff. They have less laws. They have less restrictions. They have lower costs of labor. So that's why it's so easy for them to make stuff over there and then ship it over here. So that doesn't help. We raise prices on tariff goods, which hurt consumers. That's us. That's us who go to the store and buy the things. We can't make the same goods cheaper. Our labor costs are much higher. It's why Mexico makes our cars, China makes our clothes, etc. Avalund Goldstein 9973 chimes in with something, really interesting here. Our economy is doing great for itself right now, actually. Stock market's booming. Inflation's been dropping for over a year now. Gas is under $3 a gallon again. The only other time it's done that since the 2008 recession was when nobody was on the road during the COVID shutdown. Now, I would argue that no president has power over things like gas prices. So gas prices are simply a supply and demand thing that changes with global politics. It changes with decisions that oil companies and stuff choose to make. It's not that the president goes, I'm going to lower those prices now. It's not a thing, okay? So we can't praise nor condemn a president because I think they have very little to no control over it. That was basic supply and demand then. So, he kind of agrees with me, but not really. I don't know. I doubt it. The Fed's been lowering interest rates the last few quarters. I understand that they're doing that, and this may sound anecdotal, but people aren't feeling it. And you'll see when I reply to this comment. The unemployment rate is at like 4%, which is pretty normal. 3 to 5% is the sweet spot economists consider good. We don't have a lack of jobs that require all these companies to spend more on labor here in the States. The corporations are not going to be incentivized to move back here when they can still pay pennies on the dollar for labor abroad and just raise prices to cover the higher tariffs here. So once again, the consumer still gets hurt, right? America learned this lesson the hard way during the Great Depression with the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, and again on a much smaller scale during Trump's first reign with his 2018 trade war against China. Higher tariffs ultimately do not work in America's favor and never will. This won't just hurt America economically, but also geopolitically. In the 30s, the Smoot-Hawley Act's negative effect on the Cuban sugar economy is often cited by historians as a major factor in radicalizing Cubans to overthrow their American-friendly government at the time, which put the Democratic Socialist Batista government in power. So I respond, indeed, that's not to say Americans aren't still feeling pain economically. I know Biden brags about inflation lowering and more jobs being available. Sadly, it's just not being felt by everyone, hence the verdict of the 2024 election. A lot of millennials are making 50% less than their parents and will be the first generation to not be better off than their parents were at their age. Most millennials are living with family or multiple roommates and working multiple jobs just to make rent. We've been priced out of the housing market and won't be able to do things our parents did, like have a home we own, multiple cars, family vacations, afford having multiple kids. Minimum wage is still $7.25 in Texas, and that won't even be enough to pay bills or rent working 40 hours a week or more, to be fair. So it's not even to say that we're lazy. We want to work. There's just aren't enough jobs, and we were sold by our parents and teachers that going to college would guarantee us a good job, a six-figure salary, and a better life than someone with just a high school degree. I would also argue no president has control over gas prices. That's all supply and demand and based on the economics of our country and those we trade with for fuel. So that's what I have to say on that. So once again, more people chiming in on the why tariffs are inflationary video. Daniel Danucci 1111 says it incentivizes I don't know. Did I add more? It incentivizes. Incentivizes. Okay, he said it right. It incentivizes businesses to build here. Period. And any tariff would be less than the 100% plus inflation increase since 2020. Idiot. So once again, he called me an idiot. So the guy with the cap vampire or whatever picture here called me an idiot. Invalidated your argument by resorting to personal insults. I guess you didn't hear the part where he explained it's a fallacious argument. It is more expensive to manufacture goods here. You can't compete with China with how low wages they are paid and how much more they work than American workers. Once again, getting into our rights as American workers, we don't have to work as long or as hard as they do over there because they don't have as many laws protecting workers or child labor laws, okay? So, he even mentions it's impossible to compete with the cost of labor in China. All the tariffs do is raise inflation and raise prices to hurt the middle and lower class Americans. Might rewatch the whole video before taking to the comment section. I also note that I even linked my my video on tariffs. Okay, James H 2649 says, and then the company that makes it here and avoids the boat sells it for less than the tariffed company, and the law of supply and demand drives the price back down and increases the GDP of the nation, gross domestic product. Need to think past step 3 and stop assuming that no one will change how they produce products. So he's saying that people will skip the boat. That companies will just magically say, oh, it's cheaper to get these things from China, but I'm just going to get them from America instead, even though it's more expensive. And even though it hurts my bottom line more, and I end up having to raise prices anyway and screw over the consumer either way. So I said, you can't sell it for less because the product costs more to make in the U.S. than it does there. As he said in the video, cost of labor is much higher here than in China. You can't compete with some products. That's why trade exists. We trade what we're good at making, and they trade what they're good at making. Every country has advantages due to natural resources and technology. So it's our access to natural resources and technology, right? Saudi Arabia, Iraq, they have access to oil, so they trade in that, and it makes them super rich, okay? We have access to all sorts of technology and weapons and airplanes that we manufacture that no one else can really do, okay? And, for example, China and Japan have access to advanced technology, superconductors, microchips, all sorts of crazy stuff that they can produce on mass scale that no one else can compete with. So we get all those, and we put them in our cars, we put them in our phones, our TVs, our computers, our video games. All right, so the next video, would Gaza be free of genocide if Kamala Harris had won? Sneaky Jellyfish 3578 says, brew. BRU. The United States did way worse to the people of Afghanistan and Iraq and Iran. Give me a break. And no, all that would still be happening because it's happening under her authority now also. So I say just because genocide has been done elsewhere doesn't make it right. Harris would absolutely be continuing the genocide as she stated she would. Biden's administration was a year of genocide with no opposition. So once again, we got the trial run of Biden and Harris working in unison and endorsing genocide and just saying, yeah, we're pro-Israel, we're pro-apartheid, occupation, and genocide, all these innocent deaths. Oh yeah, they sure do bother us, but I mean, all that money from AIPAC really does make the wounds feel a lot less harsh. So I think the equivalent of saying like, oh, well, the U.S. has done worse, or what China's doing to the Uyghur Muslims is pretty bad, or like, oh, what's going on in Syria? Pretty bad, huh? So, you know, comparing apples to oranges, it's just not a winning comparison here. It's not a winning idea. So, and just saying that it's going to happen, whether it's under Kamala or under Trump, if you're pro-Palestinian, if you're anti-genocide, which I think we all should be, right? Otherwise, what's the point of the Holocaust happening and all of us saying never again, not to Jews, not to anybody? What's the point of us saying that if we don't really mean it? So there wasn't really a good candidate other than Jill Stein, who was the only pro-Palestinian candidate. And obviously she can't even get 1% of the vote, can't even win in a single district. So there's that. Once again, on the issue of would Gaza be free of genocide if Kamala Harris had won, Nathaniel Rice 973 says, I see people who live under and support a terrorist organization getting what they asked for. They started this fight. I would argue that he's categorically wrong in every sense. So I just responded with the shortest and sweetest thing I could say. Most of the people in Gaza were too young to vote for Hamas. So what I'm saying here is that most of the people in Gaza are not voting age right now. They didn't choose this. Also, an oppressed people have a right to fight for their freedom. And that's true. I don't have to endorse everything Hamas does, right? They do some bad things, okay? And they also resist. And we could go back and look at every sort of Palestinian defense force or liberation force that has come up over decades and decades. And we can evaluate, oh, these guys did a good job here, but not so much here. And you could always look at the IDF and see that they bombed and killed indiscriminately and exponentially more. And they also targeted civilian population. So Nathaniel says they have a choice now, and yet they stand with Hamas. I don't think he understands. Like, it's not like that election was in '06. So people that are like 18 or 20 now, like, there's no election that's going to happen right now, okay? Because of the way things are. But it's like, if they were kids then, they didn't have the right to vote. So in the same way that I was a kid, I was in kindergarten when Bill Clinton was elected, I couldn't vote for Bill Clinton. So blaming me for what Bill Clinton did in office would be kind of crazy, right? That's insane. Now, once Obama gets in office and I vote for someone like him, and that's my first election that I get to vote in as a 35-year-old man now, I voted in several elections, but yeah, being able to vote for Obama, now you can say, oh, you participated in that election. Let's talk. So you can't blame people for that. So I said, no, there is no choice. The IDF has been killing, in all caps, everyone, okay? Not just Hamas, men, women, children, churches, schools, hospitals, everything. Refugee camps. They'll tell refugees to flee, leave this area, go south, you'll be safe. And then they bomb the north, and then they bomb the people as they're evacuating and shoot them. And with snipers, they'll target them. And if they try to run to the beach and go for a swim or escape or try to get to some water, they shoot them. If they try to go any other direction, they shoot them. If they go for the wall, they shoot them because they are walled in. Remember that. If they try to go to Egypt, the borders are closed, they shoot them down there too. So there is no decision there. So IDF has been killing everyone for over a year now. They see no difference between men, women, children, and Hamas. I don't know how people can be so heartless. Imagine it was your family, your wife, your kids being slaughtered just for being born there. So Nathaniel chooses to be, once again, heartless and cruel and say, if you believe that, then you are either dumb or just ignoring facts. Either way, Israel belongs to God. Now that's where I think this person is delusional. So once again, attack the person, not the argument. I think in this case it's kind of warranted, because I think when people either put on the tinfoil hat or they start spouting like religious delusions, that's just insane to say that. G. Knoll TV says Hamas should have tried a more diplomatic approach. Obviously, they picked a fight with the wrong people. If Hamas had the upper hand, you don't think this would happen to Israel? Well, if Hamas had any sort of upper hand, they wouldn't have access to all of the missile defense and weapons from the U.S. I think they would still resist their oppressors and do their best to achieve liberty and overcome them, and maybe even, in the craziest circumstance, drive them from the state and take back Palestine for themselves. I don't know what Hamas's motives are, but it could be possible. So once again, I reply with how do you stand up and fight against oppression? With freedom fighters, guerrilla warfare, etc. How did Americans win their freedom from the British? I'm talking about the American Revolution. They stood up and fought, even when it wasn't the right thing to do in others' eyes. Should the French, Polish, and Jews lay down for the Nazis? Or should they have fought back against oppression and genocide? I do think Hamas shouldn't have poked the bear, taken hostages, etc. What do you expect people to do when they're oppressed under apartheid and walled in a city with no control over power, water, food, etc.? People will always fight their oppressors. Israel has never truly been open to negotiation, only extermination. Now they have a reason in their eyes to exterminate all of Gaza, the West Bank, which has no Hamas, and maybe Lebanon too. Talk about being on the wrong side of history when we're the ones supporting the Nazi Zionist party that is actively committing genocide on innocent men, women, and children live on our TVs and social media. I once again replied, I'm sorry you're so cruel about human life, misinformed about the history, and jaded by religion. I'll pray for you. You have a lot of hatred for people you don't even know. And I think that's the crux of it. Like, these might be people as an American, you may never meet. I've been there. I've been to the West Bank. I've seen how Palestinians are treated by the IDF. I've seen how, as an American, I am treated by the IDF. Okay? And I'm American Palestinian. I'm half and half. So they might not have been able to tell because, we were saying, hey, we're from Texas, we're from Bushland, and Bush was the president at the time, George W., and they were very happy with him because they love Republicans and they love that he sends them weapons. So we had to play a little defense on that. How do tariffs work? What are tariffs? Aaron explains tariffs. We got a lot of comments on this video. Kyle Wellman 1756 says, and when the tariff drives the price up too high, the customer avoids buying the import shirt and buys an American-made shirt for less, supporting home businesses and local economy. These people don't understand how economics works. You take like a high school or even a college economics course, just 101, and you will be talked out of this argument. The American-made shirts cost more. I love to buy American when I can, but it costs more to make and more to sell. Businesses opt for cheaper goods to sell at a high enough margin to make a profit. So, Cal didn't have too much to say after that one. ZPQMFJ says, American manufacturing is dead. Paying the tariff is cheaper than making it in America. All it's going to do is raise prices even higher. You voted for fascism to get cheaper prices, and you got played. So he's implying that possibly Kyle here voted for Trump. I said, indeed, American manufacturing isn't dead, it's just more expensive, and those costs, like the cost of tariffs, get shared with consumers. It's going to price the poor and middle class out of all the imports we rely on from China, Mexico, and others. It won't punish China or Mexico like Trump says it will. Laughing emoji. Kyle Wellman replies to ZPQMFJ, you should educate yourself on what fascism is and its definition. It is definition. I got to teach people about contractions. So IT''S is it is. What fascism is and it is definition. That doesn't make sense. So you can sound it out in your head and know whether to include the apostrophe or not. I voted for the candidate that actually got chosen by we the people during the primary, not the candidate that was given a nomination without receiving a single vote from the people. I see a lot of people bringing this up about Kamala just, being chosen by the party or what have you without us having the primary. It's just an unusual situation. We never primary the president when he's an incumbent president. But if there is an emergency, like the president has to hand off power to someone, we rally behind the next person in the chain of command. So then they said, figure that out and then talk to me about fascism. So I wouldn't argue that what happened here was fascism. That just wouldn't be true. And no one would have voted for her if that were the case. If we were all so displeased and we were all so convinced, all us Democrats, that Biden stepping down and endorsing Kamala and everybody uniting behind Kamala and the Democratic Party was fascism, we would have stood up and rallied in the streets if we thought so. We just didn't. So I don't know, little delusional there. So I reply to that comment with, remind me, who tried to overthrow our government and subvert the popular and electoral college vote in 2020? Was it fascist Donald Trump? I believe so. He commanded his followers to march to the Capitol and stop due process. He only believes in democracy when he wins. If he loses, it's rigged. Now, ZPQMFJ replies to Kyle Wellman and says, 3 of the 4-star generals who served under him and a dozen of his former cabinet members all said he is a fascist. Fascism has nothing to do with how the DNC chooses a candidate. If he follows through with the things he said he will, you might come to regret your vote. Ooh, little Little foresight from ZPQMFJ. I say indeed, I'm more inclined to trust generals who served under him rather than a 34 times indicted civilly liable rapist and failed former President Donald Trump when it comes to tariffs and fascism. Okay, so how do tariffs work? We have CTSUG user group 1397. You can't make these names up. He says, no, we start buying American-made products instead of that cheap crap from China. And I say, I'd love for American businesses to only purchase products made in the U.S., but they are more expensive. China, Mexico, and other countries will always be the easy choice since the cost of production, materials, and labor is much lower than it is in the U.S. Consumers will always choose the most affordable products unless they have the luxury to buy it from elsewhere. So, example, maybe I have the opportunity to buy dress shirts or suits made in Italy or something at a higher price, right? We always search for the finest materials and the best fit, okay? Or maybe I'm in a pinch and I don't have a lot of money and I get a cheap suit from China for not even like probably 10% of the price of what it would go for getting an Italian or American or British made suit, right? Consumers will always choose the most affordable products unless they have the luxury to buy from elsewhere. Regardless, the cost of the tariffs are passed down to you, the consumer. It's a losing strategy for the people. Once again, on the tariffs, believe me, people had a lot to say on the tariffs, and that's fair. It's definitely a quarrelsome argument here, but it's so clear to me what the obvious solution is. So Kenneth Zerba says, or the American store buys from another source and the other country is out. So I love that a lot of people just think magically American companies are going to be like, well, it's cheaper to buy shit in China, but you know what? Let's just get it from Massachusetts. Like what? That's not... Or they don't, and they charge more for the product and the consumer has to buy it. Tariffs aren't going to save our economy. So ZPQMFJ says, there aren't American sources to buy from for a lot of goods. All these tariffs will do is raise prices. And I, once again, said, we're all buying cheap crap from TikTok. So sadly, Americans aren't abandoning China-made goods anytime soon, as long as costs are reasonable and value is decent. So once again on the tariffs, Sever6110 says, that's the point, genius. So once again, they're already talking down to me. Then consumers can search for alternative sources here in the U.S., and if companies want to avoid that, they manufacture here, winning. Okay, well, first of all, consumers we do have the freedom to go wherever we want, but we're going to look for the cheapest prices. Now, if we have to buy something that's tariffed, we're not going to know it, right? Because it's the distributor that's going to know that. The ship comes, the tariffs are paid at customs, and the distributor pays those costs. Then they hike up the merch because it costs them more at customs to get their product. So they share that with the consumer. They say, oh, now this t-shirt costs more because our costs just went up. So we have to raise prices. It's a business. It's just how things work. So there is no winning there. Hey, hi, hello says, came here to ask this, thanks. So she got kind of false information with like no full solution there, but I guess she was content with that. I said, unfortunately, it's still cheaper to get stuff from China or Mexico, our number one source of imports. Mexico is literally one of our biggest ones. Most retailers in the U.S. are getting their products from abroad because it's cheaper, and they pass the cost of tariffs to the customers, so it only hurts consumers more. ZPQMFJ says, American manufacturing is gone. Trump tariffs will not bring it back. I said, I think Sever thinks they're playing 4D chess with Trump tariffs, but sadly, it's only creating more problems. Consumers go for what we can afford. We only spend more when we make more, which wages are stagnant, and we most are living paycheck to paycheck. So we're not going to start buying American goods just for pride in our country while we starve in the streets. So kind of blunt, but honestly, I think we have to be honest. Unfortunately, it's still cheaper to get stuff from China or Mexico, our number one source of imports. Most retailers in the U.S. are getting their products from abroad because it's cheaper and they pass the cost of tariffs to the customers. So it only hurts the consumers more. Consumers go for what we can afford. We only spend more when we... Okay, I'm just... Sorry, I don't know why I guess I'm saying the same thing, but it's a different comment. Okay, so we only spend more when we make more. Which wages are stagnant, and we are mostly living paycheck to paycheck. So we're not going to start buying American goods just for pride in our country while we starve in the streets. We buy cheap stuff on Amazon or TikTok at the prices we can afford and hopefully get some value in exchange. Tariffs don't magically create pride in more expensive American-made products sold at higher prices. So yeah, once again, we don't live in La La Land here. Let's see. Side L Productions says, everyone talks about tariffs as if we cannot manufacture here. We can. We have to make it cost more to import to stop that cheap China merchandise. All we are doing with Amazon is making China richer. We need to stop buying Chinese goods and buy American. You are missing the bigger picture. So once again, it's interesting because Amazon is a free market. There are a lot of China-made goods and Korean-made and all sorts of countries, right? And there are apps that can actually tell you where the store you're buying from is located so that you can make informed decisions like, oh, it looks like this is coming from China. I don't want this. I want something made in Britain. Okay, there you go. You can make that choice. So we also can manufacture here. It's more expensive and probably even more expensive than what China manufacture goods that are tariffed cost. So there's a reason why people just opt to pay the tariff and charge consumers more. And once again, consumers don't know. We don't know we're being charged more. You think a business is going to tell us, hey, by the way, I had to hike all my prices. Sorry. You think they're going to do that? No, that's bad for business because we'd be like, well, I'm not going to buy from you anymore because it seems like you don't care about me. So I said it costs more to manufacture here. You're noticing a trend, right? Companies in the U.S. go for the cheapest products to make the most money on. I agree, we should have more products made in the U.S. This doesn't change that. Retailers will pay the price and then pass the cost of tariffs down to you, the consumer. WB 1036 says, and we stop importing the goods and the jobs come back to our country and revitalizes the American middle class. He makes it sound like Reagan's trickle-down economics, you know? If we just give the billionaires more money, they'll just use that money to pay us more. No, they won't. They'll use it to buy yachts and bigger mansions and winter homes and resorts. The only thing that trickles down is all the billionaires pissing on the middle class. You think they're going to do the right thing? Under what incentive? So yeah, no miracle. It's not going to revitalize the American middle class. He says, yes, things will cost more. Oh, that's your solution. Great. But the people that currently afford them have opportunities and better employment if they choose to take it. I don't know what he means by that. He's saying like things will cost more, but the people that can afford it deserve it. And you just have to choose not to be poor and take these low-paying jobs. I mean, that's insane. Well, let's see. We've had tariffs running since the Trump administration. Biden kept them, and it hasn't appeared to have saved our economy. It hasn't lowered prices of goods and raised the middle class to wages where they're finally able to survive. The rise of inflation hasn't helped us when wages have been stagnant for decades in some states. Businesses won't stop buying from Mexico, our number one importing country, or China, as long as it's cheaper and easier. Even with tariffs, they forward the cost down to the consumer. Then WB says, you're not interested in the truth. And I say, sharing is caring. We don't become the greatest country in the world by not trading with others. The truth is tariffs don't cure our economy. They just make cheaper goods more expensive for our own people. It doesn't punish China. So a lot of people do believe in Trump's like America first and isolationist policies where it's like, well, we should let Ukraine and Israel fight their own battles or what have you. We shouldn't trade with China. We shouldn't trade with, Iraq or Saudi Arabia or someone, just wherever we want to get our oil from. But then what do you do? Where do you get that stuff? I mean, we have oil, but we only have so much. And it's cheaper and better to trade with other countries and save our stockpile for when it's really needed. So, I don't know. Ernest Pendleton 300 says people then learn to buy American-made shirts at a cheaper price. It's just factually incorrect. You can go to any just American-made store and look at the labels. First of all, good luck trying to find something that's not made in China or Indonesia or any of these various countries. And I'm not demeaning any countries. Once again, free market. I'm all for it. What American shirts are cheaper than the ones from Mexico, China, or other countries? So I would challenge people, find it. And then also find one that's cheaper, right? I love the idea of buying American, but who will do it if they can't afford it? Profit margins go down, retailers have to charge more to offset the tariffs. Consumers suffer most at the end of the day. ZPQMFJ, the tariff hero, comes in and says no. Because the textile infrastructure to manufacture American t-shirts is gone, rebuilding it would cost more than paying the tariffs. Oof, the rabbit hole gets deeper. We started with this is what tariffs are, and now we're talking about the American manufacturing crisis. I wish American shirts were cheaper. Laughing face. On Israeli football fans start conflict with Palestinian protesters in Amsterdam, part 2. Camille Mania 792 says, wow, another person feeding false information. Now, I just slam dunked this guy by saying there's a full video link of all my coverage in the description. I'll have more videos up soon, and I do. It's Western media that's leaving all this context out of their coverage in order to make Israelis seem innocent when they are the guilty party that's provoking violence and starting the violence and looking to continue their genocide. So yeah, I mean, the videos speak for themselves. It's an Israeli football team of fans with IDF and Mossad embedded in the group, and they were picking up steel pipes and wood planks, and they were fighting people on the streets. They assaulted a Moroccan cab driver. In the days before the football game, they tore down Palestinian flags, had protests, and they touted their genocide and said anti-Arab slurs, not slogans, slurs, like, where are all the children in Gaza? Why aren't they in school? It's because they're all dead. So they're touting their genocide, and they wonder why Palestinian protesters and Dutch people choose to oppose them. So, very unusual, a poor, misinformed individual. But I'm here to inform people. So, someone else comments and says, Israel were not at fault. I say, link in the description to watch my full video on this debacle. I have more updates coming soon. Israelis absolutely were provoking this. They are at fault. Dre Kush 9554 says, yeah, right. Aman B4U says, they have shown time and time how they are horrible people with no regard for human rights. How can people be so cruel? So I said, links to the full videos, more context in the description, as well as a new video published today. So I got that out there, dropped the link in the chat. I also said, indeed, I wish I could answer that question. How can people be so cruel? I ask myself that every day as I see more of the genocide in Gaza and the expansion of settlements and war crimes, which settlements are illegal under UN international law. So that's recognized as illegal, yet it still happens. Rishi Koten Karama, and they have a lot of Hebrew text in their profile picture, so I think we know where this is going. There is a pogrom and you blame the Juden. The king of the Netherlands himself called President Herzog and said, "We failed to protect Jews during World War II and we fail you again today." You claim to have perspective, and yet you don't take in the whole picture. You are the blind trying to lead the blind. The fear of Adonai is the beginning of knowledge. So I think this person is just entirely delusional, but here's my reply. One Holocaust does not justify another. The evidence is right here for your eyes to see, yet you deny them. You can't go parading the genocide of Palestinians in other countries and cry victim when the rest of the world doesn't like it. Interesting that the flat-out evidence that Zionist Israelis provoked this, and you still think they're the good guys. So, I mean, clearly this person didn't watch the video or take in any of the sources or click on any of the additional links that lead to my long-form content on this. They just wanted to chime in and say, Israel is God and King and you can rot in hell, you know, all that kind of stuff. Crazy. Absolutely delusional. Bernie Sanders on the 2024 election results. The Smurf 1973 says the rich guy. So he's saying that Bernie Sanders is rich. And this is a criticism that he gets a lot, but I debunk it immediately. I said Trump is worth over $7 billion. Joe Biden and the First Lady earned $620,000 before taxes in 2023. How do we know this? They share their tax documents with us because that is what presidents historically have done. Trump is the only one who hasn't done it in recent years. Sanders has an estimated net worth of $3 million in 2023. The difference is Sanders has always spoken up and fought for others. You can find his policies here. BernieSanders.com/issues. Your point? We didn't hear anything else from the Smurf. Yeah, it seems like the facts eluded him. On my video, less people voted in 2024 than in 2020 and 2016. Here's why. We have delusional Johnny O to say, because they were paid to stay home. You look at all her rallies, every one of them wear pack. That's how she lost. Plus, Musk came out and said they knew. You figure that Trump won 4 hours before the ballots were counted. Where counted? It seems like were and where is a bit of an issue on these on these comments. Usually it's your and your, you know, you are and your, as in yours, right? So I reply with, God, take off the tinfoil hats. That's conspiracy theory stuff. The facts point to people that stayed home, voted third party, and voted for Trump over Harris. Even blue-collar workers that voted Biden in 2020 did not vote Harris this year. Not to mention her alienation of Arabs, Muslims, Palestinians, and people that care about that issue that changed their votes to third party, Trump, or stayed home. I think we just have to acknowledge that if we look at the numbers, and we do in that very short video, I compare the numbers over the years. And the reason we saw less voters this year than in 2020 was less people were inclined to get out and vote. They either weren't energized, they didn't like the candidates, or they were just disgruntled by two terrible candidates, and one just seemed just as bad as the other, even if one is sort of a fascist. So, I don't know. Bernie Sanders on the 2024 election results. Liberty 8424 ironically says, interesting to hear Bernie's perspective, but very false, and they scratched it out. Communism fails faster than anything. Okay, people always like to say this, but Bernie's not a communist. So, once again, here I am informing the misinformed and the delusional. He's a democratic socialist, which is different from a socialist and a communist. A lot of his policies are actually reasonable things that the American people want. Better health care, solutions to climate change, taxing the rich, raising minimum wage. Liberty says, Bernie is a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. What he tells you he is not the same. I said, what do what you think and what the facts show are two different things. He is not a member of the Communist Party. Simple research of credible sources show that to be true. Sanders' policies are democratic socialism, democratically achieved expansion of social welfare programs, not communist hallmarks like authoritarian rule, government ownership of all private property, or an end to capitalism. Liberty says, he's bragged about it in the past, maybe he changed parties. So once again, they're starting to cave and realize how wrong they are. I say, nope. He has always been an independent with the democratic socialist policies. People online, in the news, and other parties like to try to paint him as a communist, but it is factually and categorically false. Less people vote in 2024 than 2020 and 2016. Ava's World 3330 says, this is simple. America is not ready for a woman. Now, I agree to some sense. I don't think that's America's not ready for a woman. I just think that Hillary and Kamala have not been the women. I think Hillary would have been an excellent president. It's possible Kamala would have been one, although I disagree with her point of view on Gaza. I think that's absolutely evil. I have other issues that I don't like about Kamala, but, you know, the whole butter emails thing with Hillary was just insane. It's, you know, Mexico has a female president. There's lots of countries around the world that have female presidents. Most of our population is female, but women are voting against their own interests. So it's not that we're not ready. I feel like it's got to be the perfect woman at the perfect time, and she's got to really overcome a lot of just garbage to be able to get in the position. I think Kamala was dealt a terrible hand 100 days or so before the election, just being shoved in, you know, without winning any sort of primary or having to compete in the market of ideas. So I respond with, so you're saying that America does not want to elect a woman for president? Or does America not want to elect these specific women for president? Ava's World says, a women, period. Now, women is plural. Woman is singular. So, woman, singular. Women, plural. Okay? So I said, interesting. Important spelling and grammar note. Woman is singular, women is plural. So a lot of people say woman or women instead of woman and women. That's it. You don't have to change the way you say W-O. Woman, women. That's it. They said, well, thanks. I think you understood. I don't think you've made any sense at all. All I see is poor spelling and grammar, and I'm trying not to be mean here. That doesn't make your points clear. I'm just trying to be factual. It's hard to understand you if you don't make sense. So don't be an angry keyboard warrior. You know, think out what you want to say. Say it eloquently and clearly and without insult. Okay? Poor grammar, that doesn't make your points clear. All I understand is that you've tried to say is that you see there is a possibility that America did not want to elect any woman for president during any election they have been nominated. Ava's World says, the U.S. has made it clear no women. Okay, better. I'm not sure that's the lesson to learn here. There's more reasons I discuss in the full video why Kamala Harris failed, post-election 2024 coverage discussion. I have the link there as well. It's not just one thing. I know we like to find one solution, like all Americans are all racist, sexist, or blaming African Americans and Latinos for not voting for her this time. But her campaign was weak, and there are a lot of reasons. Ava says, my opinion, that's all. Thumbs up is how I respond. So I agree that they can have their opinion. I just think you should be more informed, and you should consider more than one thing. Because some people are going to say, oh, it's because she's black. Oh, it's because she's Indian. Oh, it's because she's a woman. Oh, it's because she's an older woman. Oh, it's because she's a prosecutor. She's a cop. It could be all of those things at once. It could be multiple of those things. But, you know, we have racism, we have sexism. That's all true, but there's still a large amount of people voted for her. And an overwhelming amount of people would have voted for her if she had better policies. And broke away from Biden a little bit, didn't go super corporate Democrat, and try to bring the Cheneys on board, and try to lobby for this imaginary 2% of Republican voters that you can steal. Trump names Mike Huckabee for ambassador to Israel. Horrific. Tika T7F says, very good. Israel is land of Jews people only and should be only for Jews. This is insanely delusional. There are 57 Muslim countries and Palestinian can go to those countries, but Jews have no place to go. Well, actually they do. The entire world is open to every person. As Jews coming from all over the world, so Muslims can go to Muslim countries, and that is absolutely justified. So I don't know if it's justified that Jews should go to Israel and Muslims should go to Arab countries or something. Or if they're even sort of saying that the genocide is justified because it's like, this is our land, it belongs to the Jewish people. That's where Zionism as a political movement gets delusional and insane and Nazi-ish. And it does feel very genocidal and very Holocaust-like. So this person is categorically wrong. I think this is an incredibly racist and just delusional religious thing to say. This was actually the first of our flagged comments. So these are comments that are held back by YouTube. It's not my mod team. It's nobody censoring anything. It's YouTube looking at this comment and saying, this person's saying something, inappropriate, or they're using lots of foul language, or if I have any terms entered on YouTube, like I don't want to see the N-word or something like that show up in my streams. So I have every version of the N-word blocked. You can't substitute the E with a 3 or the I with a 1 or an exclamation point or whatever. So we have all these protocols in place. So it's kind of good that this comment doesn't show up, and I never really look at the held comments that YouTube holds. I think if you're saying things like this, there's no value for you in the discussion space, because, in the market of ideas, we need to be able to talk to each other and respect each other and not be delusional or conspiracy theory or be just like horrifically racist. It's really difficult to have a genuine conversation with someone that is this foul and hateful and racist. So, shame on you, Tika. All right, so now we're back to JHBJ May 22. This is once again, so these comments were held back. He's using blocked words, which are really bad, okay? So he says, this is on the Joe Biden authorizing Ukraine to use long-range weapons. That's exactly what he's aiming for. He is doing exactly that so they can commence with martial law prolonging Trump's inauguration. So that one came through. But then he said, fucking Google is free. So he's trying to tell me to just look stuff up on Google to validate his conspiracy theories. So that comment doesn't go through. It's not my choice. It's not my mod team's choice on this one. It's YouTube. So if I don't want foul language, I don't want nasty words or racism or hatred or homophobia or any of that on my channel, perfectly fine. YouTube handles it for me. I never look at comments like this. But I thought for this video, let's just do it. Let's pull up the worst of the worst and see what people have to say. So he keeps going. He says, YouTube has nothing to do with it, and you having a mod is very unlikely. So I told him I had a mod team, as we said earlier. So you having a mod is very unlikely. So yeah, it's you. I haven't been disrespectful other than calling you a moron. That literally needs to do some research, but I get it. Facts blow your mind. But don't worry now that I know you're a moron for fact. I'll just block ya, so neither of us have to worry about the other. Well, I'd be quite thankful never to speak to you again, JHBJ May. I wonder what BJ is short for. Anyway. So yeah, none of us have to worry about the other. So other than calling me a moron, he thinks he's in the clear. But once again, idiot, moron, all these things, he's lost the argument. So he keeps replying because his comments aren't getting through and they're not showing up, and he's wondering why. And it's because when you're being racist or sexist or homophobic or you're using bad words or slurs, YouTube is automatically censoring your comments, and they just never show up. No one sees them, and I don't see them because I don't check this stupid panel. I don't care. Why do I want to see what the worst people have to say, or the nastiest slurs from people? There's just no need for it. We're a political channel. We want to have discussions, and we want to keep things genuine, and I think we need to learn to come together and speak about the issues and compromise. So this doesn't get us there. So he says, Lamau, yup, it's 1,000% you deleting comments. You literally, hey, ha, 38 subscribers. So I know for fact YouTube isn't doing it. And as far as you having mods, I highly doubt it. You just don't like people that disagree with you with facts. Grow a pair and get over yourself. So yeah, more terms that I see in there as to why YouTube blocked that one automatically. And it could also be some of my terms. It could be that grow a pair might also be a flagged term. But yeah, him trying to blame it on because I only have 38 subscribers that all 38 of them should be commenting on every video obsessively just to prove to him that he's not the only one commenting on one specific video is pretty delusional. So yeah, I don't know JHBJ May 22, but good luck out there. I really wish you would just take off the tinfoil hat. I think your family, your friends, they see people that are like this, and people don't want to be around this. And it's not a Democratic or Republican thing. It's man, every time you're there's a secret lizard government cabal, and there's, space lasers and all sorts of stuff, and, microchips in the vaccine, and, China's moderating my comments. I think we just lost the plot at that point. So we're almost at the end here. Back to the tariffs are inflationary video. This was flagged as potentially inappropriate. Papa Smurf 3747 has some really vile and racist and horrific things to say here. So I believe because Dean here, the guy in the video that's speaking, is of Asian descent, they either think it's his channel or they're choosing to insult him directly rather than me, who is reacting to his video. Papa Smurf says, "You're missing the whole point. Worried about some tariffs. The reality is you make horrible stuff that breaks and falls apart, and the Made in America stamp is a stamp that is a symbol of quality and will last for a long time." Does he mean the stamp or the quality product? Will last for a long time. Disposable garbage you were trying to sell us. I haven't made a comment in years. Took me about 3 hours to get back on the internet. What? Why are you saying this? I don't know. It took him 3 hours to get on the internet because he hasn't made a comment in years. That's wild. But I can't watch you sit here and lie anymore. Okay. One more thing you forgot. We just received 20 million immigrants that we will be proud to pay. We won't be using slave labor, by the way. You do. Your narrative is false, and we see through your bullshit, I guess. Your idea is not an option that falls apart on purpose after a year. So we'll have to buy more. Yeah, we all know about you. My grandfather was right. Okay, this is where it gets crazy, dude. I knew when he said my grandfather was right. I was like, all right, we're about to dive in. This is the most racist thing ever. My grandfather was right. We should have put you all on the other side of the Great Wall. Oh boy, of China. We should have put, he says, we should have put you all on the other side of the Great Wall of China. My grandfather said the wall was facing in because you were the evil. You know, if you made better stuff that wasn't designed to fall apart, this wouldn't be a problem. Reminder body into your false narrative, butcher greedy. You know the root of all evil, Semper Fi. Why did he say Semper Fi? Is he a veteran? I don't know. If so, thank you for your service. But I think we should leave the casual racism at the door. It's pretty extreme saying that Grandpa was right and the Great Wall of China is facing the wrong way. That's insane. So once again, Aaron Shack Politics does not endorse any of these things that we've read in these messages. Obviously, we're reading stuff that is potentially inappropriate. So you can see why YouTube has flagged this. And I think they did a pretty good job because he didn't say like outright, Chinese slurs or anything. But he was speaking in a racist manner. So, I mean, maybe it's the B word and all the stars that caught him, but I think there's a whole lot there that's pretty disgusting. All right, last one on Bernie Sanders claims Israel violates human rights and international law. Cecilia Betancourt, N7W, says, and really, if you're going to say crazy stuff, probably shouldn't use your first and last name because you can literally be identified. Potentially inappropriate here. What do you know about morals if you don't have any? You are a communist that believes in nothing but yourself and how to destroy America with the rest of your Democrats and all your stupid ideology in the school system and all that transgender. Okay, it looks like a bull and then a poop emoji and then a poop emoji and then another bull. And illegals first, then your own citizens? Your upside down party of no brains, just air? Plus other stuff in your agenda. This party is about starting wars and ruining those nations and their people into poverty. It's actually more categorically true that Republicans are the ones that tend to start wars. Democrats tend to end wars and clean up the economy after Republicans overspend. So, yeah, I don't think we can blame Bernie about wars being started. He's very anti-war. She says, you need to retire, go home, sit in your rocking chair, and that's all. There's no see more. I don't know what to do. I think she's speaking to Bernie here, but it's still disgusting and vile to say that. I don't know. I don't imagine it was about to go anywhere nicer after that. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there was some sort of, maybe entertainment value, or we were able to discuss some deep political divides here. But if you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Maybe we'll do this again soon, but I usually don't dive into the hate mail and really look at it at all, but my team was informing me. Yeah, I do have a team. My team was informing me that it would be kind of nice to pull up some of these comments and actually discuss it, and it could be a chance to just relate with everybody and just be fun and kind of have some fun in the same way that celebrities like to read hateful and mean tweets and stuff. So I don't know, we'll see. Let me know, do you want to see me do this again? Hit that like button, let me know in the comments. Just remember to be kind and respectful. You can disagree, but, if you're going to be racist or hateful or, spout a bunch of cuss words, not going to be seeing you around. So, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy Aaron Shack Politics. We got more videos on the way. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you on the next one.